All right, and welcome to Social Studies class, and this is our first lesson. Why do we study history? So we're going to talk a little bit about what history is and how we study it, how we break it up into time periods, and answer that question, why do we study history? All right, let's begin with a quick one here. What is history? Well, it's the study of people and events of the past. History can explore both the way things have changed and also the way things have stayed the same. Did you know our state has a history going back even before it was a state? Um, we'll talk a little bit about Tennessee from time to time and some of its prehistory, including Native American history, which goes way before the start of the state of Tennessee in 1796. Picture there up in the top right hand corner is a picture of our state capital, or actually of downtown Nashville, which is our state capital. All right, some basics here. How do we measure time in history? Well, we often refer to history by decades, especially when we're talking about modern history. You may hear people say the 1960s or the 1980s or the 2000s. I gave you that example there. 2000, 2010 would be the 2000s. Larger blocks of time we often call eras. The exploration era, when European countries were making their way to the New World, the Civil War era. We're going to talk about the Egyptian era and ancient civilizations like the Greeks and the Romans in this class. One thing we're also going to talk about is prehistory. And prehistory is the time before developed writing. So as we get into what the things we're studying, we're going to be looking at civilizations that wrote, and they kind of left us some notes of what life was like for them, including the Egyptians and the Greeks and the Romans. But there are some civilizations that we find some things that are prehistory. They left drawings as a way to communicate what life was like for them. When we talk about history, we talk often about calendars and how we keep track of time. One such calendar was the Julian calendar, designed by Julius Caesar. It began history at the beginning of Rome. Rome is an integral part of ancient civilizations, ancient history that we're going to talk about. The Julian calendar actually was a 365 and 1/4 days on the calendar, and every 4 years equaled a leap year because we only had a quarter of a day every year. So after 4 years, you had an extra day. Well, over time, it was figured out that the Julian calendar was actually losing time, about 1 day every 128 years. And after losing about a 10-day period, Pope Gregory the Eighth steps in, and he decides to create the Gregorian calendar. So this changed a little bit. Instead of starting from the uh, beginning of the Roman Empire, the calendar switched to starting from the birth of Jesus. We'll talk about events that take place before that, known as BC, birth of Christ, and then we'll talk about events that take place after that, commonly known as AD, after the death of Christ. So today, most of the world uses the Gregorian calendar. You can see over there, I gave Pope Gregory a nice little tweet. All right, here are the big things that you need to have ready for class on Wednesday. You need to know what history is. We talked about that in the first slide. Know the difference between the Julian and the Gregorian calendar. Why was there a change there? What is the time before writing known as? We talked a little bit about that. And can you define an era in history? Pick one that you think may be an era. Remember, an era is usually a little bit more than a decade. And be ready to have this information on Wednesday. As Einstein's showing you there, use your brain. If you need to rewatch this video, if you need to pause it, if you need to write down a question, maybe you didn't understand something, bring those questions with you to class on Wednesday. Look forward to seeing you. We're going to be doing an activity where you all are going to become historians in class.